Hi guys, Tim Barnes from Barnesviolins. I wanted to talk with you guys today a little bit about provenance of violins and how that can affect price point with them. This is a very large and broad subject, so I'm not going to get to everything today by any means, but at least we'll have kind of a little bit of an intro regarding this topic, but a little bit regarding where instruments are from, wood quality, and then some distinctions between factory violins versus Benchmade violins. So I'm going to I think, show you some examples of some instruments. I think is probably going to be the best way to at least address a few of these questions perhaps, because some of the issues are quality issues. How much money should I spend? What's appropriate? As far as my investment goes, will I get a good return on my investment when it's time to either trade in or say I try to sell it, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to try to address a few of these things and see if it's helpful for you guys. So first, which is the Chinese factory instrument. It's pretty tastefully antiqued. The wood is nice, pretty varnish. And this is actually from a company called Gewa. It looks like Gewa, Gewa, which is a German company. But they also do market Chinese violins as well. And it's a nice instrument, but it is from China. Tone wood's from China, et cetera, et cetera. And price point on this is going to be just a little over an $800 violin. This is still, in fact, a handmade instrument. A machine did not make this. People made it. Just to be clear about that. Just because something's a factory instrument doesn't mean that it's not handmade. It just means that when we have a situation like this, you've got different people in a factory with different jobs. And so one person may make tops for violins, another person may make the ribs for the violins, another person may make the backs, et cetera, et cetera. So each person has a different job. And then at the end of the assembly line, somebody has the job of putting all these things together. So there's the assembling part of the parts, and then probably, speculating here, even a different person that's going to cut the bridge and deal with the sound issues, unless they come to us, which they do sometimes, with no bridge, no strings, no tailpiece, and we do that ourselves here and cut the bridge and set everything up. So that's just to give you an idea of why things cost what they do. But again, the reason that the cost is less for something like this is because the tone wood is from China, it was grown in China, and this is not made by one person, it's made by several people. Ergo, that makes it a factory instrument. So the next instrument I'm going to show you is actually an instrument that we varnished here in our shop. Essentially, this came to us only in the white. What in the white means is this was completely white. It just looked like a bare wood piece of furniture. In a violin shape, looked like a violin, but it had none of this coloring. Everything was just like a white piece of wood. The tone wood was purchased from China, but the tone wood itself is European. And this is another thing I just want to bring you guys' attention to, is that European tone wood comes from China a lot of the time because China buys it from Europe and then sells it. So just because the wood comes from China, it can also be European. There are distinctions that we can point out. So we have done all of this customized ourselves. It's not a Benchmade violin. We didn't make it from the very beginning. We didn't cut the pieces of wood and assemble them. They were cut and assembled by someone else. And when we received the violin, we made some tonal adjustments to it, varnished the violin, we cut the bridge, added the strings, tailpiece, chin rest, pegs, put everything together, tested, adjusted the sound post as well, cut a sound post, and adjusted the sound post as well for the best tonal quality that the violin has to offer. And again, because there's a lot more work involved, there's more customization, the varnish level is of a higher quality, hand done. In our shop, the price point for this violin is going to be $4,500. So moving on, I'm going to show you an instrument that is made from a company, a very well-known company. This is made by Eastman. And again, this is not what we would call a Benchmade violin, which is a violin that's made by one person. The whole process, only one person is involved with this. This again is going to have a top guy, a ribs guy, a back person, or woman. But again, this is of higher quality. The varnish is more sophisticated as we're kind of going up the food chain here with things. Again, the tone wood on this is also European, German. Top is from Germany, back is German as well. And the model name that this violin is given is a Frederick Weiss, and that's spelled capital W-Y-S-S. And this is probably maybe the second from the highest level of the Eastman Music Company's offerings. Very nice violin. The coloring is very nice. Again, more sophisticated varnish. It's right about the same price point as the violin I showed you previously. This is just over $4,500. But again, just another example of a different kind of European tone wood violin. So the last violin that I'm going to talk about here is what we would call a Benchmade violin. That one person made this from beginning to end. They cut all the pieces of wood, they assembled everything, they did graduations in the top themselves, which means perhaps thinning a bit out or making some total adjustments themselves before they varnished the instrument. Very nice, tasteful varnish job done here. And chose some very nice classic fittings, ebony, chin rest, tailpiece, and pegs. This happens to be strung, which the maker decided upon with Ava Perazzi. I think it's a good choice in this case. The violin sounds really, really good. And again, this violin, because it's made not only by one person, which makes it Benchmade, but this person has some good credentials for essentially a young American maker. So ergo, the price point for this violin is going to be $15,000. And I hope that explains a little bit why, in terms of how the instrument's made, the construction, the varnish, etc., and then ultimately, hopefully at the end of the day, once you put bow to string, you're going to really be able to tell in the voice. It's much more sophisticated. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Take care, have a great day, and please send us any questions that you might have. Thanks again.